In 2003, when the T20 format was first played in a professionally recorded game, people were still yet to be sold on the concept of a format that was less than half the length of what they were used to. But one thing that was made clear from the get-go about this format was that it was for party people! Many fans and players of the game still couldn't grasp the entertainment factor in this format, and that all changed when the T20 format got its very own World Cup. The T20 World Cup played a pivotal role in transforming the game of cricket into the modern contemporary form we see today. Superstars like Dhoni, De Villiers and Gale were able to flourish in their roles as power hitters because of the freedom that T20 gave them to flex their muscles. If it weren't for this format, I don't think many people would still be invested in the sport of cricket overall. And now with widely successful leagues like the IPL, I don't think the fanfare around this format is planning on dying anytime soon. With the T20 World Cup final having finished on Sunday, I thought it'd be a good idea to look back on all the previous T20 World Cup finals, the winners, the losers, and the legacy of the tournament as a whole. There's a lot to cover and some insanity to go over, so let's get straight to it. The 2007 T20 World Cup was the first of its kind and would go on to lead the format's successful diffusion into mainstream cricket. The funny thing about this year's final is that the eventual winner, India, didn't even want to be there. In a sense, they were dragged to the tournament. But since they weren't very keen on participating, they sent a young team filled with stars in the making to play. The team made it through the tournament under the captaincy of Dhoni and the trailblazing attitude of a set of new players. And finally, in the main event, they showed up when it mattered most. Gautam Gambhir and Rohit Sharma helped chug the innings along to a respectable total of 157 for 5. And then the Indian bowling absolutely demolished Pakistan for a huge part of the innings, and the Pakistanis found themselves reeling at 77 for 6. India looks set to win the inaugural edition of the T20 World Cup. However, we forget to realize that this is in fact India, and they shall choose to drag this game for as long as possible. Pakistan lead an incredible charge toward the final over with 13 required off 6 to win it. Jogendra Sharma starts with a wide, then gets a dot, then goes for 6. God, India, why do you have to do this every time? Every single time we think that you've won and you go out there and you... Oh, look at that, you won it. The 2009 World Cup final was played between Sri Lanka and Pakistan on a beautiful afternoon for cricket at Lord's. After one of the greatest opening overs in the T20 World Cup finals history from Mohammad Amir set the tone for a Sri Lankan demolition, the Pakistani bowler stole the show, eventually holding the Sri Lankans to 138 runs in the first innings. Foot shooting had become a habit for Pakistan, but this time they held their nerve and sent the Sri Lankans off with a chase led by 54 runs from Shahid Afridi. Pakistan won their first ever T20 World Cup final and gained their redemption for last time's bottle. You know, for a T20 World Cup, these scores have really been boring. Wait, didn't we just have a World Cup last year? Why are we already having one again? 1 second. Although the tournament was held every 2 years beginning in 2007, the scheduled ICC Champions Trophy one-day international tournament to be held in the West Indies in 2010 was revised to a 2020 format because the 2008 Champions Trophy tournament in Pakistan was postponed due to security concerns and there was a need to correct the international cricketing tournament calendar. Make what you want of that, I've stared at it for too long. Anyways, the 2010 T20 World Cup final has arrived and the world is ready to witness a spectacle in the Kensington Oval in Barbados. Maybe now that the professionals have gotten a chance to play more in T20s, we'll have a more exciting match than the last 2 editions of the tournament. Oh, never mind, it's England. They again prove their annoying ability to win games without taking risks and everyone still hates them. On to the next game. Looks like we're in for another snore fest. How did the West Indies somehow manage to become boring in a format where random hitting is encouraged? They were 14 for 2 after the power play, and then they were 32 for 2 after 10 overs. I'd rather watch a slow motion capture of mountains eroding over a period of tens of thousands of years. The entry of Marlon Samuels into the game was the bright spot of the entire West Indies innings, and he hit 78 off 56 to make sure his team only lost a large part of their dignity, as opposed to losing all of it. The Windies finished with a very respectable total, however, of 137. Sri Lanka, being that team of chokes that can't chase down more than 100 runs, failed to take the win even when it's being served to them on a silver platter. You lost 4 wickets for 15 runs in a final? The world unfortunately doesn't really care about the West Indies winning the World Cup because they're too busy crapping on Dhoni for India not being there. I agree, this is absolutely the fault of one man, yes, of course. My god, could we please have a big score in the World Cup already? Something more than 160, for God's sake, I'm begging you. India, how do you lose 3 wickets in the span of 20 overs and still only score 130 runs? This is pain. This is pure torture. India tried to hold Sri Lanka down and almost succeed after picking up some imperative early scalps like Dilshan and Jayawardena. But Kumar Sangakkara and Thisara Pereira hold firm to defuse the Indian efforts, and Sri Lanka finally lift the T20 World Cup trophy after multiple editions of heartbreak. The lights are on in Dhaka, Bangladesh, as the Lankan Lions have won the 2014 edition of the T20 World Cup. In order to find something to talk about with this final, I was watching the highlights that ICC had posted 5 years ago. This, however, just consisted of wickets, wickets, and more wickets. All I saw were the English batters carelessly striking the ball and taking undue risks with the bat every which way. Finally, a normal T20 World Cup final. I thought I was gonna die watching all that good technique and strategically correct batting. It was getting really boring. England was finally embracing the spirit of the game and hitting as many runs as they could. Joe Root played a splendid innings of 54 off 35 deliveries, and the team rode off their high-octane batting power to try and take the team to a very good total. However, the Windies were always in it, picking up wickets at regular intervals thanks to the exceptional bowling and fielding of players like Samuel Badri. The West Indies begin a turbulent chase, and despite a rampant loss of wickets, they bring the match to its very last over, where Carlos Brathwaite dispatches Ben Stokes for 4 straight sixes in the final over to win the trophy for the West Indies' second triumph. Who cares about that? Let's focus on the fact that Amitabh Bachchan took extra time to sing the Indian national anthem, because that really gets my blood boiling. Not many expected New Zealand or Australia to make it to the final of this tournament. This World Cup was kind of weird because the stadiums were mostly empty for most of the matches because of COVID. But the Australians are used to playing in empty stadiums anyway, so it's all good. Of course, we just had to screw up the schedule even more and make it a 5-year gap in between World Cups. But of course, we have yet to talk about the game itself. In the first innings, the only thing carrying New Zealand's hopes of winning was skipper Kane Williamson. This innings was very uncharacteristic. I mean, the dude was hitting at virtually more than 2 runs a ball when he got out. When Mitchell Starc gets smacked around the park for 60 runs, you know that someone was going crazy on the field. Even after he got out, the Kiwis were able to roll along to a score of 172 for 4. The chase, however, is practically a walk in the park for the Aussies, as Maxwell, Marsh, and Warner strut their stuff to chase down the total comfortably with more than an over to spare. I don't understand how New Zealand keeps roasting the hearts of their fans on an open fire. You know that's a skill. This tournament was absolutely insane, and what better way to cap it off than with the world's best batting lineup up against arguably one of the world's greatest bowling teams. The first innings of the match was pretty uneventful, marred by garbage batting and an abundance of English wickets, most notably figures of 3 for 12 from Sam Curran. England were rattled by some early wickets going down to the likes of Haris Rauf and Shaheen Afridi. After getting their 4th wicket, it even looked like Pakistan had a solid chance to pull through against the England batting lineup. But after Moeen Ali and Ben Stokes were able to combine for 18 runs and just 4 deliveries together, they ran out of charge faster than a phone without a hotspot password. England wrote their name into the T20 World Cup trophy for the 2nd time in history, joining the West Indies as one of the only teams to do so. Thankfully, there was no controversy at all in this final, and we have to admit that England were just the better team on this occasion. So boring. The T20 World Cup is a momentous occasion that has indeed made its way into acceptable mainstream cricket. Even though the tournament's age is still relatively low, that's not to say it doesn't have its fair share of magical moments that have made cricket all the more watchable as a sport. The attraction that the format brings to the next generation of cricket players and viewers has been astounding to observe, and I don't think the format or the tournament's monumental uprise is set to stop anytime soon.